What's going on, guys? Bengal again here, coming back at you with another video, and today we have more NFL draft content for you. If you are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more NFL content, especially draft related in the near future. And today we have a very negative video. I hate to make these because I feel like, I don't know, it brings a lot of negativity towards something that people love so much, and people are extremely passionate about their favorite teams. And today I'm kind of going to be taking a big dump all over them, because these are 5 moves, in my opinion, that were the worst moves of the first round. Now, I am going to put a little disclaimer on that. That doesn't necessarily mean these are bad players, or these are players that can't develop or become good in the future, but based on not only value, but perceived value, talent right away, and where they could have gone in the draft, and that goes back to value, whether it was a reach or not. That's kind of what's going to be taken into account in this video. So if I deem a player to be a reach, they might be in this video. There's 5 of the first round. I'm probably going to be doing a whole lot more draft videos regarding not necessarily reaches. I want to do a whole lot more positive videos. So as we have the worst picks of the first round, there will be a best picks of the first round as well. That should be on the channel already as you're watching this. If not, it will be uploaded in just a few hours. So a lot of NFL draft content, so much. And we're answering even more questions over on Twitter. Twitter.com/Bengal Designs. Link is in the description. But in my opinion, we're going to go backwards on this. AJ Terrell was not a fantastic pick. Taken at number 16 overall. And yeah, the Falcons did need a cornerback. They addressed a need. I want to say this was a bit of a reach on the part of the Falcons. They cut Desmond Trufant. They really did need to go after a corner. They were so weak at that position. But I'm not sure that AJ Terrell was the guy. This is someone who was exposed down the stretch, especially by LSU. And I know a lot of the defense that people gave to AJ Terrell was that, oh, you can't just talk about him getting exposed against Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is one of the best receivers in college football. Here's the thing about that, is he's taking the next step to the NFL. He's going to be facing 100 different Jamar Chases, because there are, the best of the best in the NFL. You're facing so many talented receivers. And if you're taking a cornerback at number 16 overall, you want that to be your franchise number 1 CB. And he's going to be facing probably some of the best receivers in the NFL on a week-to-week basis. Now, fortunately for him, he's on the Falcons, doesn't have to cover Julio. But even within that same division, Michael Thomas is probably going to end up being a responsibility of his, you'd have to think, at some point. You look to the Bucks, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. It doesn't get easier. Doesn't get easier. Panthers, even DJ Moore. So for me, this was just a bit of a reach here. I think that maybe they could have traded back and found someone else. There were so many different cornerback rankings going into this. I had AJ Terrell as a fringe first round guy. I believe he was in my top 45 players in the draft. I'd have to go back and look at my big board, but I don't think Terrell's a bad player. I just think this was a slight reach. Next up, we have Noah IGBINOGHENE. Now, this is a bad pick, in my opinion, for way different reasons than the AJ Terrell. Now, was this a reach here for Noah IGBINOGHENE at pick number 30? I don't really think it was. I think this was about his value. You could see him go maybe probably not before 25, but not later than 40 or 45. So the value is correct. It's kind of in that range. Here's the thing with Noah IGBINOGHENE. He is raw, maybe best suited to move inside and play in the nickel. But for me, with so many different players on the board and available at this pick for the Dolphins that I think would make immediate improvements to their team, it didn't really make sense for them drafting a cornerback, because you gave all this money to Xavier Howard. You gave all this money to Byron Jones when you brought him in free agency. Of course, Xavier Howard was an extension. He wasn't a signing. But you're then going out, and instead of addressing safety, which is weak, instead of addressing linebacker, which is fairly weak outside of Jerome Baker. I know Raekwon McMillan's shown flashes, but that's a fairly weak position. You have nothing on the edge. The defensive line isn't great in general. The offensive line, still very weak. Receiver isn't even that strong. I like Preston Williams and I like Devontae Parker. They don't really have a third option. I feel like a third receiver is more valuable than a third corner. I guess you're going to see the Dolphins run a lot of nickel packages. So You figure Noah Igbenogany maybe finds a home in the nickel there, home in the slot as a slot cornerback. But then even so, spending a first-round pick on a slot corner, just another thing that's a little bit confusing on my end in terms of how that value equates. So I think Noah Igbenogany can be a good player. He's transitioning from wide receiver, so he's still extremely raw, and it does show. For a former wide receiver, you'd expect his ball skills to be a little bit better. He's just not so great at turning around and locating the football. Great press man corner, but down the field just doesn't really find the ball, and that's going to be a lot of defensive pass interferences in the NFL when the cornerback doesn't turn around and try to make a play on the football. You just run into the receiver. Guess what? You're going to get flagged. And in the NFL, it's not a 15-yard penalty. It's a spot foul. Those can be extremely, extremely valuable, and they can really, really hurt a defense. I guess the bright side with that is if he's playing in the nickel, his responsibility probably won't be so much of running down the field with guys. But again, just for the Dolphins investing so much money at cornerback and then going around and drafting one instead of other more immediate needs, in my opinion, just kind of strange to me. Next up is Damon Arnette. We have all cornerbacks here so far. It's a weird cornerback class because there were the two that were the clear best in the class in Jeff Okudah and CJ Henderson, and then there was a significant drop-off where it was really tough to figure out where these guys were going to go, who was better than who, what their true value is. But to me, Damon Arnette was not really a first-round player. I know he dealt with some injury concerns last year at Ohio State, but he was the third best corner on that roster. Jeff Okudah was the clear one, and then Shaun Wade, I think, is a player that if he went at number 19, if he decided to enter the draft instead of going back to Ohio State, okay, I could get behind Shaun Wade maybe at 19 based on how he played last year. But Damon Arnette, just, it feels like he had so much of a cushion and so much to work with at Ohio State that he really didn't have to do anything spectacular, and I'm not sure how spectacular of a player he is. His athleticism didn't really flash all that much. I think he plays faster on tape than he does in terms of just a true 40 speed, so I wouldn't take a whole lot of stock in that. But this was just a weird pick for me as well. I don't think the value matches up with Damon Arnette going in the top 20. Personally, I had him outside the top 50 on my big board, so you know, take whatever stock you want in that. As I said before, people can look to discredit me. That's fine. They're just ignorant to what I've been doing on the channel for years now. And as I said, I started to get into this when I was about 14 years old, trying to learn from people who are much smarter than I am. And now I'm going to be 22 by the time the next football season comes around. So I've been doing this for a while, trying to perfect my craft. And I think Damon Arnette's a decent player. I just don't think he's anything spectacular. And when you're picking inside the top 20, you want something spectacular. And I'm not sure that Damon Arnette is that. Pick that I absolutely hated. First non-DB. Here is Austin Jackson out of USC. Went at number 18 overall. I hated this pick a lot because the Dolphins, in my opinion, are falling into the trap that a lot of bad teams fall into, which is taking an athlete over someone that is a safer pick because you think you can definitely develop them into being, you know, the star that you envision. And to me, Austin Jackson was certainly the most raw offensive tackle in this entire draft class, given the hype. I don't think he was near a first-round player. He's just so raw. And for the Dolphins, I guess it's okay that they took him. This was the right team to take him, probably, because with a player as raw as this, you probably can't start him right away, or else he's going to be a disaster. And when you have a rookie quarterback who has already proven to have injury concerns in Tua Tagovailoa, I'm not sure that you want to take a super raw offensive tackle to entrust him with the responsibility of being the blindside protector of Tua Tagovailoa. This was a right tackle at USC, and that's probably what he's going to play in the NFL. I'm not sure that this was the right pick. If you're going to start him right away, this could be disastrous for the Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa especially. This could be very, very bad. Now, if you bring in some veteran guys and start them over him and say, Austin Jackson, we'll coach you up, you'll get better for a year, and then we'll throw you in there in your sophomore campaign, and hopefully you'll be more improved as a blocker in general, that's kind of a different story. But to me, this was just a big reach at the spot. You're taking an athlete over a more sure thing. Now, Josh Jones is not an exciting player out of Houston, but he's just someone that doesn't get beat. That's kind of the argument for Andrew Thomas over a Tristan Wirfs or Mekhi Becton is, yeah, they're more exciting athletically for sure, but Andrew Thomas just doesn't get beat. Kind of my same thing here. Austin Jackson's a great athlete, especially for his size, and that's what the whole thing here. That's a whole upside, but he's just not the sure thing that I think Josh Jones was as far as a pass protection standpoint goes. I don't think Josh Jones is ever going to be one of the best tackles in the NFL, and that's what they're shooting here. with Austin Jackson. That's what they're shooting for. But to me, Josh Jones would have been a more stable protector, and that's kind of what you need. But you're taking a right tackle over a left tackle. It was an interesting pick. Just I really didn't like it. I think Austin Jackson is super raw, and you spent a top 20 pick on him. And what probably isn't a surprise to many, my worst pick of the first round was Jordyn Brooks out of Texas Tech. Went at number 27 overall to the Seahawks. And again, you've noticed a similar theme here. This is just a player that is super, super raw. Plays really well going downhill. Can fill gaps and make tackles. Doesn't really shed blocks all that well, which is a concern of an inside linebacker. You're teaming him up with Bobby Wagner, which is a good combo. You're probably going to play him on the outside of that 4-3. Bobby Wagner's going to stay on the inside. But Jordyn Brooks covers well at times, and he's terrible at times in coverage. He showcases that, you know, he has the ability to do it, but doesn't do it consistently at all. And for me, when you're talking about a first-round player, you're talking about someone that is consistent and that does dominate the competition. And Jordyn Brooks, to me, just was not that. Clearly the best player on the Texas Tech defense, but that's not saying much. Not only is it a Big 12 defense, it's Texas Tech, a non-competitor. So him being the best player on the defense doesn't really say much. This is a guy that is just super, super raw. With potential, though, when you talk about these incredible athletes that show flashes, obviously there's something there that you think you can develop into being a great player. And Jordyn Brooks could develop into being that great player, but it's just so raw. And with Patrick Queen available and would go even a pick later at 28, I'm not sure how you take Jordyn Brooks over Patrick Queen. And that's part of what made this pick so terrible to me, is I think Patrick Queen is one of the best players in the entire draft. I think he was top 15 on my player rankings on my big board, but Jordyn Brooks wasn't even inside my top 100. So, say what you will about that. I know some teams were real high on Jordyn Brooks, the Packers being one of them as well. I just don't see the value here at number 27. You better hope you can develop this guy and say, you know, you can be our Bobby Wagner. Because Bobby Wagner was raw coming out of Utah State as well. He developed into being arguably the best linebacker in the NFL when Luke Kuechly was still playing, and is certainly the best inside linebacker in the NFL right now. Maybe it's the same thing here. They hope they can do the Jordyn Brooks to Bobby Wagner effect. It'll be interesting. I think these picks have potential, but for me, a lot of times taking the athlete over the technique can blow up in a team's face. You've seen it happen with the Browns countless times, especially with offensive linemen. That's why I'm so worried about Austin Jackson. If you've seen it with Greg Robinson, saw it with Eric Flowers, you've seen it with countless of these tackles that just haven't worked out because they never figured out the technique and they were never able to do it at a high enough level. That's why technique comes paramount over true athleticism. That's going to do it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.